In the rolling hills of Wyoming, Rachel, a 50-year-old widow hardened by years of service but softened by her love for the land, ran her farm in Pine Valley. She thought she'd left the battlefield behind for good, but the quiet life didn't last. One bright morning, while repairing a fence, Rachel, a former sniper, noticed the distant hum of a motorcycle. It grew louder, stopping abruptly at the edge of her field. A man with a scruffy beard and sharp eyes, wearing an Iron Wolves leather vest, gave her a long, appraising look before revving his engine and riding off. Rachel felt a silent warning in her gut. Later that day, her 16-year-old daughter Emma ran into the barn. "Mom," she said urgently, "Mrs. Bradley called. Some bikers were asking about us at the gas station. They wanted to know if we own this place." Rachel's stomach tightened. "Did they say why?" Emma shook her head. She said they looked serious, organized. "Where's Ethan?" Rachel asked, referring to her 11-year-old son. "Out back with Max," Emma replied. Rachel stepped outside, scanning the horizon. Her Australian shepherd, Max, barked sharply near the chicken coop. She spotted Ethan. "Mom," he said, pointing toward the road, "I saw 3 bikes earlier. They stopped and stared at the house. Max has been acting weird all morning, like when that mountain lion came down last year." Rachel nodded. "You and Emma stick close to the house. I'm going into town." The Pine Valley feed store was bustling. Rachel, Sam, the owner, greeted her with a grim nod. "I heard about the Iron Wolves sniffing around your place. They've been making their way through the valley. Farms, businesses, anyone who can't pay their fees ends up with a burned barn or worse." Rachel's jaw tightened. "How many?" "A dozen or so," Sam replied. "But they're well armed. Not your average gang. These guys have ex-military among them." The bell above the door jingled, and her neighbor Martha hurried over, clutching a newspaper. "Rachel, you need to see this," Martha said, showing her a grainy photograph of the Iron Wolves' leader, a man called Viper. "They've already taken over 3 towns north of here, burned the Thompson farm last week when they refused to pay." Rachel's mind worked quickly. "Thanks for the heads up. Let me know if you see or hear anything else." Back at the farm, Rachel found Emma and Ethan finishing their chores. "Mom," Emma said, "I saw a black motorcycle go past twice while you were gone. They're watching us, aren't they?" Rachel nodded. "We're not panicking, but we're not ignoring it either. Stick to the routines we talked about. Stay close to the house. Keep Max nearby." That night, Rachel sat on the porch, cleaning her old shotgun. It was a reminder that the farm was not an easy target. The quiet chirping of crickets mixed with the rustle of leaves, but Rachel's thoughts were elsewhere. Her eyes drifted toward the barn, to the false wall hidden behind stacks of hay bales. Behind it lay her old sniper rifle and tactical gear, tools she'd prayed she would never need again. Yet, as she thought about the bikers and the threats they carried, she knew the time to unlock that cache was drawing closer. She'd prepared for this moment long ago, trusting her instincts to shield her family from dangers unseen. 2 days later, the first real confrontation came. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the field when 4 bikers roared up to the farm's gate. Dust trailed behind their machines as they came to a stop, their engines rumbling. The leader, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, dismounted. His patch read Viper, and his leather vest was covered in insignias. Rachel emerged from the house, her posture calm, but her every movement deliberate, her years of training evident even in how she approached. "Nice place you got here," Viper said, his voice a gravelly drawl that carried both amusement and menace. "Shame if something happened to it." "Private property," Rachel replied calmly. "Keep moving." Viper chuckled. "Oh, I think you misunderstand. We're offering protection. Reasonable fee. Say $5,000 a month." "Not interested." His smile faded. "Everyone's interested eventually. Just ask the Thompsons." Rachel didn't flinch. "You've said your piece. Now get off my land." Viper's eyes narrowed. "You've got till the end of the week. After that, things might get unpredictable. As the bikers roared away, Rachel's mind was already racing. She walked the perimeter of her property, noting boot prints in the dirt and tire tracks in the gravel. These men weren't just bullies, they were trained. That night, Rachel called Martha, Tom from the feed store, and a handful of other trusted locals. They met in the barn, discussing what to do. The sheriff's useless, Tom said. They've got him in their pocket. Martha nodded. Then it's up to us. Rachel unveiled her sniper rifle and tactical maps. If they're coming for us, we're not going to make it easy. Over the next 3 days, they transformed Pine Valley into a fortress. Fences were reinforced, vantage points established, and escape routes mapped out. Emma and Ethan learned basic tactical maneuvers, their youthful determination bolstered by their mother's unyielding resolve. When the Iron Wolves returned, it was just before dawn. 20 bikes roared down the main road, their riders splitting into tactical flanking positions. Rachel spotted them from her perch in the loft, her rifle steady. "Positions, stay low," she whispered into the radio. Viper's voice rang out over the din. "Last chance. Give us the farm, and we'll let you walk away." Rachel's response was a single shot that took out the engine of his lead bike. The explosion of smoke and sparks sent the bikers scrambling for cover. "Game on," Rachel muttered. The next hour was a whirlwind of chaos and precision. Rachel's rifle barked in controlled bursts, disabling vehicles and scattering the attackers. Her allies held their positions, using the terrain to their advantage. Even Emma got in on the action, her softball bat connecting with the arm of a biker who tried to breach the barn. By sunrise, the Iron Wolves were retreating, leaving behind half their bikes and a handful of injured men. Viper glared at Rachel from the back of a pickup truck as it sped away. His parting words, carried on the wind, were, "This isn't over." Rachel knew he was right. The wolves would regroup, likely bringing reinforcements. But she also knew they'd underestimated Pine Valley. They weren't just fighting a single mother and her neighbors. They were fighting a community that refused to back down. As Rachel stood in the aftermath, surveying the damage and rallying her people, she felt a deep sense of purpose. This was more than a fight for her farm. It was a fight for everything her parents had built, everything she wanted her children to inherit, and she wasn't about to lose. The next night, the wolves returned, this time with 30 riders and heavier weapons. The air in Pine Valley was thick with anticipation. Every shadow held the promise of danger. The townspeople had fortified their positions, turning every barn, ditch, and silo into a defensive stronghold. Rachel stood at the center of it all, her eyes scanning the horizon, her rifle a natural extension of her body. When the wolves made their move, it came like a thunderstorm. The roar of engines filled the night as they descended on the farm in a calculated, multi-pronged assault. Fire erupted at the eastern fence, an attempt to draw defenders out of position. Explosions lit up the night sky. But the people of Pine Valley held their ground. Rachel moved like a ghost through the chaos, from the hayloft to the barn roof. Her rifle found its mark again and again. Each shot was deliberate, crippling rather than killing. A message to the wolves that they were outmatched. Emma and Ethan followed her instructions to the letter, relaying messages to their neighbors and holding the fallback positions with steely determination. Tom and Martha coordinated the defense, their voices steady over the crackling radios. The wolves had numbers, but they lacked Rachel's precision and her ability to think 3 steps ahead. They stumbled into pits she had dug weeks earlier, were funneled into ambush zones lined with tripwires and improvised barricades. Every corner of the farm had been turned into a weapon, and every inch was defended with the kind of determination that only came from protecting something irreplaceable. As dawn approached, the wolves' assault began to falter. Smoke hung heavy in the air, and the sounds of engines were replaced by panicked shouts. Viper, the leader of the Iron Wolves, found himself alone in the field, his bike disabled by a spike strip. Rachel approached him slowly, her rifle trained on his chest. The sun rose behind her, casting her in a golden light that made her seem larger than life. "It's over," she said, her voice calm but firm. "You've lost." Viper's defiance flickered, but then he dropped the knife he'd been clutching. His eyes darted around, seeing his men disarmed and scattered, their morale shattered. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "There's more like us out there." Rachel didn't flinch. "Then I'll be ready, and so will they." She gestured toward the townspeople emerging from their positions, dirt-streaked but victorious. "You came for my land, my family, my town, and now you'll face the consequences." By the time the sun fully rose, the wolves were rounded up and restrained. The injured were tended to, the fires extinguished. Rachel stood tall in the morning light, her children by her side. The farm, scarred but standing, bore witness to their victory. They'd come for her land, they'd come for her family, they'd come to break Pine Valley. But they'd forgotten one crucial truth. You never corner a predator without expecting a fight. And when you do, you'd better pray she doesn't bite back. Thank you so much for watching and supporting Story Karma. Your engagement, whether it's watching, liking, commenting, or sharing, helps us continue bringing you powerful stories of crime, justice, and karma. We truly appreciate each and every one of you for being part of this journey. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Your support keeps this channel going, and we can't wait to share more incredible stories with you. Disclaimer. All stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional and created for entertainment purposes. We advocate for a world where everyone has equal rights under the law and where society continues to grow in fairness, development, and civilization. Our goal is to share heartwarming stories that contribute to making life better. Any resemblance to real events, individuals, or organizations is purely coincidental and unintentional. These stories are not meant to reference any actual people, events, or entities, and contain no political or religious connotations.